Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and I've got a new tutorial for you, and this one is a little bit different. We're going to use only 3D milling toolpaths, and I received many emails and few comments asking for full part programming using 3D milling toolpaths. So this is our first tutorial, and as I promised, I'll be doing a little bit of 3D milling programming and also multi-axis programming, and then we'll be combining these two type of operations together. And on the screen we have this interesting 3D model with a lot of undercuts and fill walls, and this part is made of plastic, and on the drawing the title for this part is Fiber Optic Tray. And this is for one of our AeroSpace customers, and I've got the permission to use their 3D model. It's very old revision, and I can share this 3D model with you guys so you can practice at home or at work and follow the instructions and just play with this. I cannot share the drawing because it contains personal information of my customer. So first let's set our WCS, and we're going to use for that program from Model Prep, and then from the layout section select Align to Plane. So first we have to tell Mastercam where is our Z0 and what face is normal to our Z-axis. So click on the top face, and now we have to tell Mastercam where is our X-axis. So you can select a line or a solid edge, or you can select 2 points on your 3D model, and Mastercam will use it as a line and as an orientation for your X-axis. So for my first point, I'm going to use center of the top edge and then the center of this hole here. So this is my X-axis orientation, my X-axis. Okay, so now I want to transform that to the top plane, and when you click OK, Mastercam will move it to your top plane. Okay, but I want this to be in the center of the part. Okay, WCS on the top center. So let's go to transform, move to origin, and I'm going to select the top edge here, the center of the top edge. So you see the next to the arrow is a circle with the cross inside. That means we are in the center. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at this 3D model. It's a fairly simple part, but interesting 3D model, and we have some pockets, a lot of contours and different depths, undercuts, and some holes, a lot of chamfers, and I think this side will be good for our tutorial. And this is the other side of the 3D model, and you can see we have some cutouts, pockets, and all part is quite easy but has a lot of features to contour or pocket. So let's go and move on to programming. So as my machine, I'm going to select Mill Default so we can all follow the same process, and in the properties I'm going to select my stock, and my stock is going to be cylindrical shape on the Z axis. So let's change the axis of my stock to Z, and now you can click all solids to read the sizes of this 3D model, or my favorite method is using a bounding box. Okay, now I can click on the solid and I can adjust the stock and see how it changes on the screen. So I'm going to change the radius to 144 millimeters, and in this way we have our stock ready to use, so we can start programming. But before we set our first operation, I'm going to go to Levels Manager, and I'm going to create additional level, second level, and this is for my geometry that I'm going to use for containment. And I'm going to create my containment boundary that I'm going to use for my toolpaths. So let's navigate to Wireframe, then select Circle Center Point, and from my origin as my center. I'm going to cover my whole 3D model with the stock plus a bit extra. So my stock was 144mm, but I want to create a containment boundary that will be slightly bigger. So I'm going to use 150mm radius. Okay, so now we are ready to add first facing operation. I'm going to quickly face it. Okay, so if you don't select the stock and at this point, Mastercam will automatically use the stock setup and face the stock that's assigned here. So let's go straight to OK without selecting anything. Tool, I want to use an 100mm face mill. And then cut parameters. I want my cutting method to be dynamic. Okay. And 60% step over. I don't want to leave any stock. I don't want to use depth cuts. In linking parameters, that's all good. Let's generate a toolpath. Okay, let's see if it covers everything. So with our next toolpath, we're going to rough the part out, and this time instead of OptiRough, as we use that in many of our other tutorials, we're going to use 3D Pocket. And triple click, I selected the whole 3D model. Containment, I'm going to select this circle, this wireframe that I created. Okay. Okay. And as my tool, I'll use, let's say 12mm flat end mill. Okay. My feed rate, my spindle speed. Okay. Your planes are top. And if you want, you can add coolant. And let's go to surface parameters. I want my clearance to be plus 5, absolute. That will switch off. And stock to leave, I want to leave 0.2mm everywhere. Okay, this is just to rough out the material. And compensate to outside. On the rough parameters page, I'm going to set my maximum step down for something really big value, because I will pick from my 3D model the depths I want to use for roughing. Here you can select one of the entry options. To select our depths, we're going to use this button here. So first I'm going to switch to absolute depths, and then we have 3 options here. With the top button, we can ask Mastercam to detect flats for us and add all the depths to the lists. Then on the very bottom, we can clear the depths, and mid button, we can select our depths. Here I click yes, because I want to reset my first and last depth as well. So this is my first depth, because it is quite a big horizontal area and I want to make sure that we're going to hit this depth. This is my second depth, as I want to rough out the whole depth for this pocket. And then for all the features that are going all the way through the part, I'm going to select the bottom edge of this 3D model. And in this way, we will machine all those through features. So this last depth that I selected is our maximum depth. And we will add slightly to it, so we will make sure that we will cut through this part. Okay, so I'm going to add only 0.1 at the moment. We'll come back later and we'll adjust it. But I want to explain step by step why we're doing those things. So at the moment we have minimum, maximum depths, and this one depth 10.25. But with these settings, if we leave as it is, we won't get those depth cut properly. But we'll come back later. First I'll show you what it is, and I'm going to come back and I'll show you this, why we have to use this adjust for stock to leave on drive surfaces. So let's click OK here. Now let's quickly go to Pocket Parameters tab, and on this page we can set our cutting method. I'm going to go by high speed, Also step over percentage, I'm going to use the diameter of the cutter and 60%. And for my finish cut, I'm going to use 0.3 millimeter. Okay, so I'm happy with those settings, click OK. As you remember, as our depth, we selected top of each flat area, but also we asked Mastercam to leave 0.2 millimeter on each face, everywhere, on the horizontal and vertical faces. So look at that, Mastercam cannot machine those flat areas, those depths, because it would engage in the stock that we asked Mastercam to leave. So to avoid the collision, it actually machined only the upper depth, the first depth. So let's go to parameters. So in this way, to cut those depths properly, we would have to add 0.2 millimeter to each depth. Or we can use this smart option here, and Mastercam will adjust each depth for us to accommodate this stock that we ask Mastercam to leave. So because we leave stock on this horizontal area, Mastercam couldn't machine those depths without collision. So let's quickly activate this adjust for stock, and Mastercam automatically add this value here to each of our depth. Select OK, and we will come back once more to those cutting depths. But first I want to see the result, and we will go through one thing at a time to ease explaining. So this face is now cut nicely, properly. We have cuts also above this bottom of this pocket. So every depth is now adjusted to stock to leave. So let's quickly jump into verify, and let's see one more thing. So one thing to point is, in this process, after facing operation, our material thickness is exactly thickness of the part. And it is because I'm using vacuum fixture to hold this component instead of clamping it. And to make sure that our vacuum system doesn't have any air leaks and the part is held properly, we face the bottom of this component in our prep op before machining. Okay, so look at this area here, and you can see that we have some stock left. And we shouldn't have, because we're supposed to machine it through. And the reason is very simple. We asked Mastercam to leave 0.2 millimeter on each depth. So if we want to machine this all the way through the part, we need to accommodate this stock to leave and add this to maximum depth if we want to machine this part all the way through and pass a little bit the bottom edge. And the solution is very simple. I'm going to add this 0.2 millimeter of stock to leave to my maximum depth to pass this bottom edge. Let's regen the toolpath and let's compare the result. Okay, so now let's change the view to front view. You can use shortcut on your keyboard, Alt+2. And when we zoom in, you can see that the last path, the deepest pass, is below the bottom face of the 3D model. Okay, great. So I hope that I didn't confuse you guys too much and this is all clear. And let's move on. Okay, so with our next operation, we are going to hit all those flat areas. So we're going to finish this floor and this floor. Okay. Now, one moment, where is that here? Let me just check something. So let's go to here. Yeah, that's cutting the fresh air. So let's just quickly go back to surface rough pocket, and in the tool containment, let's compensate to the center of the tool. Okay, that's better. Okay. So as I mentioned, our next operation is going to be horizontal areas. Okay. So this toolpath will only machine everything that has horizontal face. Okay, so let's go and select horizontal areas. And here in the model geometry, I'm going to reset the stock values here. So 0, 0 with this button. And I'm going to select whole 3D model. So triple click 3 times left mouse button. and this will select the whole 3D model, or you can use keyboard and press Ctrl A and selection. And there is another method how you can select everything. So if I unselect, you can, in Mastercam 2022, if you're using Mastercam 2022, you can right click on this group and add remaining entities, and it will select everything you have here. Okay, so we are finishing this flat area, so this horizontal areas, but I still want to keep tool away from my walls, 0.2 millimeter, because I want to use a smaller tool that will actually be able to cut those corner rats as well. Okay, I'm not going to select anything here as a tool. I'm going to use something slightly smaller than that, and also I want to have corner radius because I finished the flat area and this would give me nicer finish. Okay, so bull nose and mill, so with radius, and mill with radius, and let's select maybe this one, 10 mil with half a mil radius. My feed rate is going to be 1,500 and the spindle speed is 8,500. Okay, we can't select stock here. This horizontal area doesn't work with wrist material. In the cut parameters page, I'm going to select just one depth. We have only 0.3 millimeter left for our finishing toolpath, so I'm going to change that to 1. If you select one depth, you cannot select depth step, so that gets blanked. So as my step over, I'm going to use 55% of the cutter's diameter. So when you press enter, Mastercam will populate maximum and minimum step over for us. And you can adjust minimum step over, I mean only make it bigger than that calculated value, but not smaller. Okay, I'm going to leave that off. Steep and shallow, yes, I need to use minimum depth. Okay, and my minimum depth is going to be something below the top face. Okay, so let's say this, minus 0.03, because if we leave 0 here or unticked, this is the horizontal area as well. So Mastercam would generate the toolpath on this top face, and we already have that faced. Let's move on to linking parameters, and here I want to use minimum vertical retract. My part clearance is going to be on 3 mil, and my clearance plane is going to be 5 mil absolute. And in the leads, I don't want to have horizontal entry and horizontal exit. I want my vertical entry and exit to be 1 millimeter, as we already have everything roughed to 0.2 millimeter. And I'm going to change that to machine entire pass. And the transition page, I want to use a helix, maybe 6 mil. I'm going to use a plunge rate, so this is this rate here. This feed you put here as a plunge rate. You can use the feed rate if you select that. Okay, but I'm going to use a plunge rate, and 6 mil is the radius of that helix, and plunge angle I'm going to use 10 degree plus I want to use only 1 mil. Okay, in arc filter I'm going to use my standard settings that I usually use, so it is 85 to 15, and I want to have line arc filter in X, Y, because we are going only to have motion in XY axis, in XY plane. Okay, our plane top, I'll use coolant, and let's have a look at our result. Okay, so we have that finished. The center bit is finished as well, horizontal, and also the bottom face of this 3D model. And also I like the fact that Mastercam extended this horizontal area to make sure that everything is covered and we are overlapping the edges. Okay, that's great. So we have all our flat areas, horizontal areas machined. And as you probably noticed already, we have some unmachined area between these two blades, and also here between that one wall and this central bit. So we do not have anything machined here. And actually, let's create a stock model so it'll be easy to see what is unmachined. So as my initial stock, I'm going to use stock setup from the stock that we select here. So when you click that, Mastercam automatically populate the boxes for you from this tab here, from this settings here. And then as my source operations, I'm going to click on that toolpath group. So all the toolpaths are selected. And actually I'm going to change the path tolerance to 0.05. That will give me better quality stock model. Okay. Of course, if your toolpath tolerance is going to be tighter, Mastercam will take a little bit more time to generate the stock model. But now we have our stock model, and we can see straight away that we do not have even machined this area through, plus this cutouts. Okay. Also, we have quite a lot material in the corners here. Especially with this one angled bit is actually quite a bit of material. And because we use 10 mil with 0.5 mil rad, we have 0.5 mil fillet going along the whole wall. So I want to machine that off as well, rough it out. So what we're going to use for machining the rest of this material from this part is, of course, we all use OptiRough, but I want to show you today different method and toolpath. So click right mouse button on Toolpaths Manager window and go up to Mill Toolpaths, then navigate down to Surface Rough, and we're going to use Rest Mill. And Rest Mill is not available from these options here. So let's go and select the Rest Mill. So I want to machine the whole 3D model. So triple click to select the whole 3D model. Now I want to set some avoidance geometry. So I want to set my check faces or surfaces, because I still want my tool to be kept away 0.2 millimeter away from the walls. Okay, because I want to finish the walls in the next operation. So what I'm going to do is change the view to front, select, so press on check, and I want to select just the top of this 3D model. So I'm going to drag a window selecting third roughly part of the top of the model. And this way we'll select the whole top with this chamfer. So that means the chamfer is the same position as the wall, so our tool will be kept 0.2 millimeter away from the wall when we set leave stock on checks. Actually, we have also this contour here, so I want my tool to be kept away from this contour, so I'm going to double click on this feature of this face or any of those walls, and Mastercam will select the whole feature. So double click, and also that actually we cannot use double click because it would go and select the whole part. So we need to select those walls separately, one by one, okay? Because I want to leave stock on these walls as well. I want to actually keep my tool away 0.2 millimeter so we can use finishing operation. Okay. So end selection, and this is what I've got selected. So this whole feature here, all the walls around. Actually, I missed one, so I'm going to select, go back and add this one wall. Okay, so it's good to use this feature. You see, it's easy to see if anything was missed. Okay, and I'm happy with this selection. So let's go and select our containment, and I'm going to use the same containment boundary. Select OK. I'm going to use 4 mil end mill, and maybe let's say 1,500 and 6,500 here, and I'm going to use coolant. Okay, so now let's move to the next tab, surface parameters, and I will use a clearance of absolute 5 mil, and I want to leave stock on checks, so I want to keep my tool away from all the walls 0.2 millimeters, and I want to keep the tool inside the containment boundary, and I'm going to add additional offset of, that's 300, 4, 8, 16, 4 millimeter, and this way we won't touch this wall. In rest mill parameters, I'm going to set my total tolerance to use line and arc filtering, and I usually use 85:15 proportion. So my maximum step down, I don't want to go deeper than diameter of my cutter, so I'm going to set that to 4 mil, and I'm happy with the step over 2 mil plus 0.2 extension distance. Okay. Oh, and I want to use entry, exit, and arc. So I want to enter using the arc, okay, and exit. So I'm going to change that to 2 mil. I don't want the entry to be 5 mil. And I want to allow my arcs, entry and exit, to be outside boundary. So if we're going to go and enter here, I'm happy that Mastercam will generate the entry outside this boundary. Now we have our maximum step down set to 4 millimeters, but I want to select my own depths. Okay, so let's go to cut depths. I'm going to change the absolute depths. Let's clear that and press select depths. And I want to reset my minimum and maximum depths as well. So the first depth that you select will be your minimum, and the last one, the very bottom, is going to be maximum. Useless maximum. So let's hit yes, and I want to clean that edge here as well because we have 0.5 rad. So I'm going to use that as my first depth. So my second depth, I want to do maybe halfway between this point and the floor here. I'm going to leave the point here, also leave the point here, and Mastercam. So when you hold the mouse on the intersection, it will leave like a mark, and then when you have two marks, Mastercam will leave red point midpoint. So I'm going to select that, and also I want to machine the contour around on the full depth, so I'm going to select this edge. Okay. Oh, and of course I want to machine this feature through, so I'm going to select this edge. Okay, so these are my depths. After selecting all my depths, I'm going to, you need to press escape key on your keyboard. So this is my first depth, that's my very bottom, and we have two depths here. Okay, so this time I'm going to leave that unticked. Press OK, and I'm actually going to hit to take this optimize cut order, and I'm going to leave that minimize burial. Okay, and let's move on to rest material parameters. So here I'm going to use one other operation, and I'm going to find my stock model here, and if you want you can ignore cusps. So if you have any unwanted like extra passes and extra areas that are machined, just you can use this option here, ignore small cusps, and Mastercam will ignore anything that is smaller than 0.1 millimeter. And of course, if you use one other operation and you select the stock model, for example, you untick this. If you leave that ticked, Mastercam will give you this error. Okay. So now, okay, I'm going to, yes, I want to keep this operation. So I'm going to go back to parameters, rest material parameters, and just untick this. Okay. Generate the toolpath. And this is our result. Okay. So we have this material here, machined in depths as well. This is roughed in depths, and then this is cut in depths, and then we are cleaning all contour around with one motion. Okay. Okay, so now we have only 0.2 millimeter stock left everywhere around the walls. Okay, I recommend saving the part regularly. And with our next toolpath, we're going to contour the whole 3D model. Okay, so let's finish those walls around. Okay, this 3D model. So for that, I'm going to use 3D toolpaths again. And I want to use contour. What I want to machine, I just want to contour everything on that 3D model. So I'm going to select whole 3D model, triple click, with left mouse button, 3 clicks, the whole 3D model is selected, and selection, no checks, containment. I can select my containment using wireframe, close chain, this, wireframe, this circle, and because we have 1.5 mil radius in each corner, I'm going to use 2.5 millimeter slot drill. Coolant on, surface parameters. I don't need to change anything here. Finish contour parameters, and I'm going to leave 2 mil. Entry, I want to use, let's say 2 mil. My maximum step down is 2 mil, but I want to make sure that we are going to cut my certain depths. So first we're going to use absolute depths. Let's clear the depths, and then let's try first this detect flat, and Mastercam automatically will search the 3D model and add each horizontal area to the list of each depth. Okay, so you need to remember that even the, for example, counterbore has a flat area inside, and Mastercam will add it to the list of our depths. But if you want, you can manually remove the depth from the list by pressing delete key on your keyboard. For our example, I'm going to select the critical depths manually. I want to reset my minimum and maximum depth as well. For minimum and maximum depths, Mastercam will use the highest and the lowest point from the range of your selection. I'm going to select the depths that I want to make sure that are going to be cut. So I want every depth that wall is joining the floor, the intersection between the floor and the wall, because I want the contour to be cut right to the floor. I also want to select the bottom edge for contouring the features that are going all the way through the part, including my outside diameter. I also select the top edge just to let Mastercam calculate those 2 mm depth cuts from that edge. So press Escape key on your keyboard, go back to your settings, and I'm going to set my first depth to be -1, calculated from -1. Okay. And basically those are my settings. I'm going to go one way, so because we have mostly close contours, and transition I'm going to use broken. The cut depths we have set already as well. Yeah, it looks like we have everything we need. And the flat, shallow and helix, we will talk about this in next tutorial. We're going to use this toolpath more often in our tutorials, and we'll be doing different examples. So this is the toolpath. So we have our entry, exit, and every wall is finished. Okay, external wall, all the internal walls, everything is finished. This is how easy it is. We didn't even have many settings to actually adjust. This toolpath is nice. And it also works with ball nose and some angled walls, and you'll see this later in the future tutorials. What else we have to do? We have only one thing left, and it is chamfer on all edges. Okay, so this is really simple, and for that we are going to use 2D toolpath, and I'm going to use a model chamfer. Okay, yeah, I know I don't have that in my default operations. As a tool, I'm going to use 4mm 90 degree. Okay, so it's my 4mm chamfer tool. So in the toolpath type, you want to press the selection button, and we're going to add our chains. So what I'm going to use edges that are internal here. Okay, so internal chamfer edges. So for that I'm going to use loop, and I'm going to click on those faces here. Okay, so this is my first, but I'm going to start this here. So this chain, then we go for this one. I'm going to start here. You need to make sure that the orientation is correct. So I want to use the compensation left, so I need to go opposite direction, this way. So my cutter goes that way, I want to be on the left hand side. Same on this here, I need to reverse it. Okay, then we have this, and we have actually this one as well. That goes wrong way, so we need to go that way. Wells have chamfer this bit. Okay, and actually I can put the chamfers on all those holes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do cavities here select this button, and it will select all the internal features, all the internal pockets or holes. And this is it. Okay, and we have one here. Looks like we have everything selected what we need. So now let's accept the selection. So we have our tool selected. It's a 4mm chamfer tool, 90 degree. In the cut parameters, I'm happy with the compensation type on the computer, and my chamfer size is 0 because we already selected the internal edge of the chamfer. So the chamfer width is 0 if you select the internal chamfer edge. And the bottom offset, I want to offset that 0.5 millimeter. The chamfer is, I think, 0.2 or 0.3, so you have enough room to actually go around here, even with the 0.5 depth. Could maybe go even slightly deeper. I'm going to leave that 0.5. I'm happy with this. No depth cuts. I'm not going to use any lead in and lead out. Multiaxis, no. Linking, I can go back to 5mm clearance. Feed plane, 2mm. All the features, most of the features are on the top edge anyway. Arc filter, we're going to do filter in 85% to 15 cut tolerance. Planes, top, coolant on. Okay, and we have all the settings ready. Okay, and this is our toolpath. If you want, you can add, of course, lead in, lead out, but for chamfer, I do not need that. Okay, let's quickly jump to verify simulation, and we can see our part being machined. I mean, simulation of part being machined. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for all the emails and comments. I love them all. And also, sorry guys for not replying sometimes straight away. I'm doing this Mastercam and YouTube and teaching stuff just only in my free time, and sometimes I get really busy, and I'm trying to respond to all your emails, and if I see that you guys are getting into some troubles with Mastercam, on those emails I always reply straight away. And once again, thank you guys for watching, for staying with me, and if you like this video and you find this helpful, just click this like button and subscribe for future videos. Don't forget to download your 3D model, link is in the description, and just a comment at the end: please do not sell my content, please do not sell 3D models, please do not sell my programming tutorials to anyone. This is the free content. I do it for free in my own time, and I do not give permission to use this to make money.